SSB इजी में अब हम सबसे इंटरेस्टिंग टॉपिक पर आते हैं, जो कि है इंटरव्यू, पर्सनल इंटरव्यू। ना पर्सनल इंटरव्यू हर जॉब में होता है और यहाँ भी होता है, लेकिन हर जॉब के इंटरव्यू में और यहाँ के इंटरव्यू में थोड़ा सा फर्क है। यहाँ का जो इंटरव्यूइंग ऑफिसर है वो प्रॉपरली सिलेक्टेड, ट्रेंड और एक्सपीरियंस इंटरव्यूइंग ऑफिसर होता है। उसको सिखाया जाता है कि इंटरव्यू कैसे लिया जाता है, उसको ये भी सिखाया जाता है कि इस ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को क्या चाहिए। इस इंटरव्यू को हम बेसिकली सेमी स्ट्रक्चर्ड इंटरव्यू कहते हैं, जिसमें इसका स्ट्रक्चर डिफाइंड है, लेकिन उसके अंदर इंटरव्यूइंग ऑफिसर अपनी मर्जी से कैंडिडेट के जवाबों के अनुसार एक्स्ट्रा सवाल पूछ सकता है, एंड ही कैन गेट इनटू द डेप्थ एंड एनालिसिस ऑफ anything that he wants within the structure, and he doesn't violate that structure. Let me also tell you, interview method में out of the 3 selectors सबसे ज़्यादा लोग select होते हैं और सबसे ज़्यादा लोग रिजेक्ट होते हैं साइकोलॉजिस्ट में। दिस इज द जनरल ट्रेंड। उसके कारण है कि कन्वर्सेशन में काफ़ी सारे बच्चे ठीक ठाक कर लेते हैं, लेकिन जब वही थॉट प्रोसेस फर्स्ट थॉट की बात आती है तो वो नहीं लिख पाते हैं। तो इंटरव्यूइंग ऑफिसर अपने स्ट्रक्चर के मुताबिक केवल कुछ ही टॉपिक्स के ऊपर बात करता है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू द कैंडिडेट, द फैमिली, क्या आप बाकी बताना चाहिए और ऐसे जनरल टॉपिक्स क्या है?
ओके, सो सर, नॉर्मल जब कन्वर्सेशन स्टार्ट होती है, मोर और लेस व्हाट आई फेल्ट इज कि एक नॉर्मल कन्वर्सेशन ही होती है जो बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग कन्वर्सेशन होती है। दैट्स व्हाट आई पर्सनली फील। एंड ये कन्वर्सेशन स्टार्ट होती है और शुरू भी होती है और ख़त्म भी होती है आपके पीआई की फॉर्म पे ही। तो जो जो आपने अपनी पीआई की फॉर्म में लिखा हुआ होता है उसी स्ट्रक्चर में कन्वर्सेशन हमेशा चलती है और वहाँ से लेकर के वहाँ तक ही चलती है। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, नॉर्मल क्वेश्चन से स्टार्ट होते हैं, हाउ वाज योर स्टे, हाउ इज द फूड, हैव यू मेड एनी फ्रेंड्स, व्हाट डू यू लाइक इन योर फ्रेंड्स। ऐसी कुछ बातें होती हैं। देयर आफ्टर सर एक सीक्वेंस फॉलो किया जाता है। इन दिस सीक्वेंस ही विल आस्क यू सिंपली, हाउ वाज योर स्टे, how was the food, how are you enjoying, what all activities you have done, and then each and everything would be from the PIQ form. Now he'll also say ki ha, after reading your PIQ form I have a rough idea about you, now let's discuss. So he might ask the questions in a sequence and then you have to remember that sequence and then you have to try to answer that in sequence only. That's what I did. So he asked me ki so tell me from your schooling, in your schooling, from where have you done your schoolings, what were your
No, give me the headings first.
Okay.
For example, schooling is one heading,
Yeah.
family is another heading.
Yes, sir.
So what are the headings under which the questions were asked?
So there were 3 main headings. First was your schooling. After schooling comes your family. After family comes your friends and your neighbors. Friends and neighbors. These are 3 main headings. Under these headings, there are subheadings and then multiple layer of questions. So under schooling, he asked me questions like, from where have you done your schoolings? Tell me about your 10th. He might ask you a little earlier than 10th or from 10th. So tell me about your primary school and then your 10th, your 12th, your college, and what are you pursuing right now? Tell me the subjects which you have liked the most and the subjects which you have liked the least and why. Tell me the teachers which you liked the most and the teachers which you liked the least. Tell me your friends. Tell me 2 qualities of your friends that you admire. Tell me 2 demerits of your friends that you feel like they should change. Thereafter, what were the subjects? Yeah, I already covered what were the subjects. Thereafter, your percentages, and tell me any other extracurricular activities which you had participated in. Tell me the sports which you have played. So holistically cover your schooling. Thereafter, he'll ask similar things about your college. This is one segment, one heading, and under these subheadings, now you should answer the questions. So now, what should be the answer? Like, I feel like everyone's answer would vary from person to person, and the sequence. What should be the answer? Like, how should
Okay,
one go?
let me just cover what you have said and explain that. The first thing is that he makes you comfortable, so that there are minimum inhibitions and there is a free conversation, free flow of thoughts between you two. He'll ensure that you are made comfortable. The next few headings that he is going to cover is you. What are your achievements? What are your ambitions? What are your interests? What are your hobbies? How have you performed so far? What opportunities have you got and how have you made use of them? So practically almost everything that you have written in the PIQ form about you. In detail, he'll also ask you why. The next is family. Third is friends and teachers. No, there is no column for friends and teachers, but then detailed questions about them will be asked and we'll cover them later. So, you, family, teachers, friends. Then your society, the society that we stay in, the issues that are troubling our society like child labor, triple talaq, age of marriage, Article 370, national issues, and then international issues that actually basically impact India. In fact, one of the interviewing officers also asked, tell me 2 international events which do not have any effect on India. So, international issues. Then there is a question on organizing ability. We'll cover all these in detail. Right now, let me just give out you the headings. The organizing ability, current affairs, international, national, and general knowledge. There are 2 more questions in the headings. One heading is, why do you want to join the defense forces? We'll cover it, right? And yet another one is couple of questions about how you relate your subjects to real life, and also couple of questions about the service, Army, Navy or Air Force that you wish to join. General questions, not detailed ones, but then these are the only headings under which the questions are asked. Let's take them one by one. Firstly, the individual. Now, in individual, the questions asked to you are basically to determine your self-analysis, your achievements, your weaknesses, your strengths, your ambitions, your hobbies, your interests. And when you show that it's your hobby or interest, then how much in detail do you know about all this? You will not be asked a question on music unless you see music as your hobby. You will not be asked a question on hockey unless you say that hockey is your game. You will not be asked a question on chess unless you say chess is your game. You will not be asked a question on Navy unless you say that you wish to join Navy. So your decisions, and we want to know all the whys. That's about the individual. Before I come to Surbi and what was asked to her, let me cover 2 more or 3 more headings. The next is your teachers. By keeping the teachers in conversation, we're making you feel comfortable that we are not discussing you, but actually we are discussing you and discussing your values and discussing your adjustments, and we are trying to understand your sense of responsibility, not the teachers. So from the teachers we will ask which teacher you like, which subject do you like, and why. Why do you like a particular teacher? Your reply will tell us what qualities you appreciate, what is your value system, what is your sense of responsibility. Similarly, about the friends, we will ask you how many friends do you have, what do you do with the friends. Tell me one incident when you this thing you did together. Tell me something which you did wrong. Tell me something what you did with friends which you never told your father. Tell me something about when as friends you went and did something which was very close to your heart. What we basically try to understand is your value system, your sense of responsibility, your sense of judgment, you being a responsible member of the society, trustworthy friend, a good team member. The next is about your educational institutes. We want to understand what kind of background you have had, and that will make us understand how well have you used the opportunities that were available to you by the system. So, let me ask Survi, I'm breaking down the conversation in parts. So, in this part, when we are talking about the humans, the individual, you, the family, the friends, the teachers, and the education system, institutions, schools and colleges. What kind of questions were asked? Please don't give me the answer. Just ask me what kind of questions have been asked to you and to your friends.
Yes. Okay. So, sir, talking about the family and friends, the questions which were asked were starting from the very school. First of all, the questions were asked: which teacher do you like the most and why? Which teacher do you like the least and why? Then, about the friends, tell me two qualities which you admire in your friends, and tell me two qualities of your friends which you would like to change in your friends. Then the questions might go a little bit more deeper, like tell me about your friends circle. Tell me how many friends do you have in your close friend circle. Tell me about your best friend. Tell me the qualities of your best friend, and tell me what were the what tell me about the incidents where you have helped your best friend, or tell me about the incidents where your best friend have helped you. So something related to incidents they'll always ask. If you are saying some quality, so they'll ask you about the incidents. So okay, tell me, you say that your friend is helpful or you are very helping. So what is the time, when is the time that you have helped one another? So he might always ask you a story or two. That's what happened to me and my case. At times he might also ask you about if you have a boyfriend or a girlfriend, and if you say no, then why not? And if you say yes, then there might be more questions on that particular topic, like how long you both have been dating and what are your future plans. How do you see yourself maintaining your relationship once you are in academy? Because then, of course, it would be a long distance one. So, your plans on that. There might be questions on that. Then he might ask you questions upon your neighbors. For example, who are your friends in your neighbor? For example, in your neighborhood, if there are kids of your age, are they your friends? Or if there are kids not of your age, then are you friends? Which kind of bond do you share? These kind of questions were asked to me and my friends.
Good. A very interesting thing which I had actually left out. Question on your boyfriend and a girlfriend. Now, this is very important for us to understand your gender biases. It's very important for us to understand how would you treat your colleagues of the same gender and of the different gender. Especially for girls, they are now joining or planning to join the defense forces, which has actually been a male bastion. Now, the women force is entering the male bastion. How would they adjust? What kind of thought process they have towards their boyfriends? Are these responsible thoughts? Responsible as per the societal norms? Do you have any discomforts in trying to deal with them? Adjust to the surroundings where the males are so far dominating and women are just making an entry? Will you be comfortable dealing with all kinds of responses coming from the environment? How bold and confident you are dealing with these issues? This is very important for us to understand. That's why ladies or the lady officers or lady candidates sometimes may be probed into this, especially if in the first few questions, which are generally the conversation kind of questions, in that if they give a slightest of inclination of a gender bias, then that will be probed much deeper. Sometimes the candidate may even feel that the interviewing officer is getting rather personal. But his reasons are very simple. How would you deal with uncomfortable situations from other gender in military service? Required. This is a requirement of the organization. Chalo, let's move on to the next topics. What kind of questions were asked to you about the service that you wish to join, about your subjects relating to actual life, right? Which we like to call as effective intelligence. What kind of questions were asked in national and international affairs and general knowledge?
Yes. In I have given SSBs in all Air Force, Navy, and Army. When I was in Army, so the obvious questions were related to Army, and in my PIQ form, it was clearly mentioned that I have given SSB in Air Force and Navy as well. So there were few questions of Air Force and Navy as well. The questions were very basic in nature. Initially, the officer asked me to tell what I know about the armed forces. So I started with the current affairs, then a little static portion of whatever I was knowing. Then he started asking me questions based on that only. Now there was one deal which India has signed of selling BrahMos missile to Philippines. So I said that. Then he asked me question based on that very thing which I have said. So he is asked me to initiate. He asked me to tell me what do you know about. The question was tell me what do you know about armed forces. And when I was in army, so the question was why do you want to join army? Tell me about army. Once I started saying, after saying 2 to 3 lines, then he started questioning me about whatever I have said, and the question kept on repeating on what I will say. For example, if I said okay, so for example, there if he asked me a question about tell me something about international relation, and in international relation I said that India is having a very good relationship with Russia, then he'll ask me more question about okay, so tell me about trade relation or any trade deal which we have recently signed. So he would ask me generally question based on tell me about army, tell me about national news or international news. The officer will say will ask me to tell me about the news, and then he'll ask me questions about question from what I have already said. So these were majorly the questions, or he might ask few random questions as well, few static random questions.
Great. I think you covered it all. Basically, what we want to understand is when you say that you know a particular topic, how well can you analyze it? We are not doing a fact check. We are not checking your memory power alone. We are checking your power of analysis, your reasoning, your logics, you understanding their implications on ground and on real life. That's the reason why you will be probed on any question that you say that I know, because We don't want to touch those parts which you don't know. But if you say that you know, we want to know that you really can analyze it. Do you have the power of analysis or not? So, on all these topics, your national affairs, international affairs, societal affairs, your subjects, we want to understand whether you can relate them to real life and draw meaningful analysis and reasons and can take actions. The next thing that is also asked is sometimes you are put in situations, the kind of situation reaction test that you do in psychology. The interviewing officer does put you in some situation. अगर ऐसा होगा तो कैसे करोगे, अगर ये होगा तो कैसे करोगे, if this happens like this. Any of such questions asked to you?
Yes, sir. There were few questions asked to. So there were few questions asked to me about if this thing happened, if this might have happened. I can't exactly remember the question, but yeah, I remember now. There was a trip. He asked me, okay, tell me about some trip that you have went on when you were in college. So there was this one college trip we went on. It was a Kashid beach trip, and it was organized by the E-cell of our college, and I was the PR head of our E-cell. So he told me, okay, so now tell me if this thing happened, like for example, if the tire was punctured or something like that, and there are some girls with you, and they have in timings, and then they have to reach on time. So now what you will do? And there were few questions like that. He asked me to describe the journey, describe the trip, and I was describing the trip. And in that trip, he gave me situations. So okay, this was a very well trip. You enjoyed a lot, I think. But now tell me if this might have happened, then what you have done. So there were questions like that. Yes.
Good. So that is the situation reactions, and through which he is actually trying to probe some specific quality wherever he think he has got a doubt in the conversation so far. Right. You will also realize sometimes the interviewing officer comes back to the same point. After 2-3 questions, he again directly or indirectly comes back to the same question. Has that happened with you?
Yes, sir.
Or you know of it happening to any of your friends?
Yes, sir. So it was okay. There are two incidents. Now you tell me what that means. With me, I am a little doubtful about the measurements. So, for example, if you ask me the dimensions of this phone, I might tell you. But then, if you ask me the dimensions of this room, I might fumble a little. So, there is a little one thing. I am a little weak in units and measurements. A little weak. Or at that point of time, I might fumble a little because of the nerve. My nerve might take the best of me. Generally, I know, we all know, but at that point of time, your nerve might take the best of you. So this thing happened with me in Bangalore SSB board. So I was fumbling with the dimensions. So the officer kept on repeating that, okay, so tell me about this dimension and that dimension and the dimension of a ship and then the dimension of a plane. So this was one question repeated to me. Uh, this was a little static question. With one of my friend, she told me that after the interview, the assessor kept on asking, again, she was in a relationship and she clearly told about the relationship. So the question revolved around repetitively about, okay, so now what will you do? And then what will you do? So she said it might have happened that I might have revealed quite a lot, or I might have said few things which were not necessary for me to say at that point of time, but in flow I just said a little more, I feel, and that was a topic which was repeating. So yes, sir, that have happened in with different friends of mine. Different topic have been repeated, but yes, topic does get repeated.
Yeah, he does repeat it, and he repeats it for the simple reason that in case he has got a question or a doubt about your response, your opinion, your perceptions, your emotions, your feelings, then he basically wants to understand whether the whole gambit is officer like or not. So you will find him coming back to the questions, especially in relationship. The minute you accept or you have got courage to accept that you are in a relationship with somebody, uh, be you boy or be you a girl, doesn't make a difference. That actually right now our society is not so very open that we talk about it or we accept it before marriage. So we definitely want to understand whether you are a responsible member of the society, whether you value the societal norms, whether you are following those norms, whether you have respect for those norms, right? Because right now we are not a Western society. So we can't have officers who would not follow the normal societal norms. That doesn't mean that you can't have a relationship. You actually can, but like premarital sex, is still not considered very acceptable in our society. You leaving one girl and getting married to the other one, or you maintaining 2 or 3, still not very acceptable to us. So that is the reason why you will find, especially in relationship questions, you will find them probing little more than what you would have otherwise expected. Right? The aim is very clear. These leaders of men, the officers who are being selected, they have to be the ideals for their men, their subordinates. They are the leaders. The men would look up to them. And therefore, if you are a revolutionary, well, with a pinch of salt, we would like to understand you better. Right? Now, another question, which is probably the last one that I think I should dwell on, is organizing ability. Now, as an officer, you will be required to organize training events, operational events, preparing for competitions, स्पोर्ट्स इवेंट्स, कभी फुटबॉल करा रहे होगे, कभी हॉकी करा रहे होगे, कभी फायरिंग कॉम्पिटिशन करा रहे होगे, कभी एक्सरसाइज करा रहे होगे, कभी जवानों का प्रमोशन करा रहे होगे. So you'll be organizing various kinds of events. So we want to understand whether your basics for organizing ability are correct. The question actually starts with how will you. Any question is how will you actually is giving me an indication of your organizing ability. Were you asked any questions on organizing ability?
Sir, I don't think directly I was asked a question, but it might be indirectly that I was asked.
Now let me tell you that there are no direct questions.
Yeah.
It will always be indirect questions coupled with something.
Yes.
Like when I said I was playing hockey, I was asked how will you organize a hockey match.
Yes. Sir, I think as I can recall the trip which I told you. So yes, there were few questions based on that trip, and then there was one more question based on e-summit. So we organized this e-summit in our college where we call different companies, a startup basically. They come and they give internships and placements. So what was the whole setup, how we organized? He asked few questions related to that. I feel like that was one of the organizing skills question.
You have to be asked. I mean, even if you don't remember it clearly, it is because you are confusing कि organizing ability का है कि नहीं है. But organizing ability is a very specific topic for an interviewing officer, wherein he has to ask a question on organizing ability. Now, having finished generally all the topics that are covered in the structure of the interview, let's just quietly discuss how do you think you should prepare for this interview?
So this is again a question I would ask to you, but I'll share my experience how I prepared. So sir, when for the very first time I went, I was unprepared for the whole SSB for the very first time when I went there. So I was raw and I just went there and we just had a conversation. It was a normal conversation which we had, and it was fun for me to have a conversation. But then again, when I went for second SSB and third SSB, I felt like if I was a little better prepared, I would have answered a little better. For example, in my national and international relations, my knowledge of the defense service which I want to join in, and just having a better sense of organizing. For example, whenever I am asked a question, now that I am teaching and everything, so I students generally keep on asking questions, so just listening to the question very well, understanding the question, understanding the core demand of the question, and then answering that. I feel like that have improved my interview from the very first interview that I had, and now the interviews that I give. Just understanding the demand of the question, that what the interviewer actually wants to ask you, rather than practicing and preparing what you have to say. Just listen to what the question is, give it some time, think about it, and then give the answer. That is one thing which I started practicing in general, in each and every aspect. Whenever a question is asked to me in any respect, I feel like, sir, that is one thing which have helped me. Now, sir, you tell me what more should I do.
Okay. Now let me put the whole thing in phases. In the first phase, you prepare for the interview. In the second phase, you are now going in for the interview and the conduct starts. And in the third phase, during the interview, what do you do? Right. So in the first phase, when you are preparing, the first thing is PIQ form. That is the basis of your interview. So fill it with due and deliberate thoughts. Take a PIQ form, it is there on the net, fill it now. Be very sure about what you are filling. Be prepared to answer all sorts of questions, left, right, center, of everything that you have written in PIQ with your pen. That is one thing. The second thing is analyze yourself, your relations with your families, analyze your relationship with your teachers, with your friends, and be prepared to get for people to get deeper, and the hows and whys, not only about the whats. So it is the whats, hows and whys of everything that you have done and written in PIQ, and about your teachers, families, friends and yourself. The next thing is analysis of everything that you have studied in the class, international events, general knowledge events, and how do they impact your life. Get into a habit, get into inquisitiveness, जिज्ञासु प्रवृत्ति अपने आप में पैदा करिए, पता करने की कोशिश करिए कि क्या हो रहा है, क्यों हो रहा है, इसका असर हमारी ज़िंदगी में क्या होगा. Now this is important. Organization that you wish to join. So learn about Army, Navy or Air Force, whatever you wish to join. And organizing ability, practice organizing on ground. Now Durga, get into the organizing committee in your mohalla. Ganesh Puja, get into organizing committee. Picnic, become an organizer of a picnic and let it be the best of the picnic. Now if you get into organizing these kind of events, you will realize that you will start learning about organizing ability, and that is what actually is required, practical knowledge. We actually cannot impart this knowledge in the classroom, very difficult. Most of it actually has to be done by you in the real surroundings. Anything else you would like to say?
Sir, I feel like now I have to practice more of what you have said. Yeah, so that's one thing I'll do, and learn from my surroundings as much as I can.
Okay, so with this we finish the session on SSB Easy. We have covered the screening, we have covered the psychological tests, the JTO and the interviewing officers. Please understand, it's a personality test. Please understand, it is not on tests. Even the army says, do you have it in you? If you have it in you, let them test it the way they want. Do know about the test, do know about what to do about the test. But when you have to work more on your own growth, your own personality growth. Develop the personality of an officer. Learn to listen, learn to grasp. During the course of the interview, be confident. have eye contact, sit comfortably, listen to what he wants to know, listen to his question appropriately. Then organize your thoughts and give a suitably organized answer. In case he nods or he shakes his head, please understand what he is actually wanting to mean. Be clear of the body language. Not only yours, even his. Now, this is how, in actual interview, you will be able to make an impression which will be equivalent to your preparation and capabilities. Otherwise, more often than not, even when you have the capability, you are not able to display because you have not trained yourself on this skill. So, prepare well, enter well with confidence, good manners, wish him, pull a chair when he tells you to, sit down in a proper upright position, right? Be attentive and give the answers like she said. Take a little pause, not a big one, but a little pause, and then give proper, well organized, well thought out answer. You should not be verbose. जरूरत से ज़्यादा फेंकने की ज़रूरत नहीं है. जो पूछा गया है उतना ही बताना है, बिकॉज जितना फेंकोगे बाद में लपेटने में उतनी मुश्किल होगी. He might get after any one of them. तुम जितनी फेंक रहे हो उनमें से किसी में पकड़ लेगा वो. Right? So try to be precise. My interview finished in flat 22 minutes. So time is no yardstick. The minute he's made up his mind about you, he'll let you go. With this, we finish SSB. I'm sure you must have enjoyed it, at least as much as we have enjoyed putting it up for you. Thank you.